K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and I'm joined tonight by none other than Mr. Messaround Dave, my co-host. How you doing tonight?
I'm great. Had a long grocery shop. It's terrible. I hate it. Anyways, I'm here now. Let's do this.
All right, and then of course our special guest tonight. Welcome in, Suzanne. How you doing tonight?
Good. Hope everyone else is doing good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're watching another episode of C2C, the Red Tape Files. So tonight we actually are bringing to you a very, very special case. And let's just say this one is actually not really a well-known case. A lot of people don't really know about this case. Really, the only people who kind of know about this one is kind of if you're around, I would say, like the Coos Bay, North Bend area. It was actually the disappearance of Glenda Campbell. And so, we all personally knew Glenda. We knew her. Messaround Dave actually worked with Glenda. I knew her because she was a friend of my mom's, which for those of you who don't know, Suzanne is my mom, just so everybody out there wants to know. But very, very interesting case. So this actually took place, I believe, around November 14th of 2012 was the actual disappearance date.
Actually, it was November 5th, 2012.
Okay, November 5th. Okay, so the timeline for me was kind of there. So my apologies. I kind of had that timeline a little bit wrong, but we'll get better as we go along with the timeline. And really only simply because there wasn't really a lot to go on with this disappearance of Glenda. There really wasn't a whole lot there. So mess around. I can go ahead and I can kind of kick this off with you. You kind of tell me a little bit about kind of what your thoughts were on this disappearance. And
I don't know. It's kind of odd because I did work with her for a while. I'm not sure. I don't remember how long I worked there, but she was a real sweet lady and never called in. And then when she didn't show up or call in for a couple of days, people started getting worried. And eventually somebody reported they're missing and nobody's seen her since. And it wasn't like her to miss work, like I said. So,
So if I got this right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe, did you not drop off? You dropped off Glenda the night before. And then Glenda was supposed to go to work the next day. You were supposed to actually show up and pick her up at her house, if I do remember correctly.
Correct. I dropped her off at home the night before. And I told her I wouldn't be able to take her to work because I had to work that morning. But I gave her money to take the bus to work. But I would pick her up after work. And when I went the next night to pick her up, or actually, excuse me, I was texting her and calling her to get the correct time to pick her up from work. I got no replies at all. So I went to her house to see if maybe she was there or something, but everything was dark. She wasn't there. She wasn't answering. I had a couple other people call her, and then I called Walmart and asked them if she was at work that day, and they said no. And I said, well, did she call in? And they said no, she never called in. And I said, well, then there's something wrong because she doesn't just not show up for work. She would call in or something. So then I called and reported her missing.
Yeah, and so kind of like when we look at a little, timeline of events here, it's kind of like you said, you kind of called it and later reported her missing. And we all understand how this whole you report a person missing, we all understand how this works. You know, you have to wait I think it's 24 to 48 hours before they actually before you can actually declare somebody a missing person. I do believe it's 24 to 48 hours. So Messaround Dave, I'm going to turn this over to you for a second. So why don't you go ahead and give us kind of the first kind of not really clues, but kind of the first things that some of them found at the site.
Well, I guess from what I understand is that the police interviewed the son, and he said something is really strange. Like they asked if she knew where she went, and he was like, "Oh, she's swimming with the sharks in San Francisco."
Yeah, so that was kind of one story that I heard, but I did also hear though that when they got there, you know, her purse, phone, you know, and everything and wallet was on her bed. So it was like she just up and vanished. So something definitely happened there. The son in this was definitely the prime suspect, but I don't recall if they ever interviewed him, because I do believe that he had schizophrenia. And so Suzanne, if you want to go ahead and take this away a little bit, kind of tell us, you know, was this kind of what happened, that her son came out and stated, you know, she's swimming with the sharks in San Francisco, you know, that her phone and stuff was on the bed.
Yeah, when they did get in the house, her phone and her wallet they found on her bed, which is very strange because her phone was her lifeline. I mean, I was taking her somewhere and we just got a block away from her house, and she said, "Oh, I forgot my phone. We have to go back and get my phone. I have to have my phone."
Mm-hmm.
So for her phone and wallet to be on her bed, it just didn't add up. And they did interview the son, but they didn't take him in and interview him. They interviewed him out in public. And he did come up with some pretty wild stories. He did say she was swimming with the sharks. He said the aliens came and got her, and yeah, he just had some really bizarre stories.
Now, from what I understand, his son had mental health issues, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah. And that's one reason why they said that they couldn't take him into the police station to interrogate him because of his mental state, which I didn't understand that at all, but that's what they said.
Yeah, I remember a few times Glenda telling me about her son and how much of an a-hole he was, and she was scared of him, and if he didn't bring cigarettes home for him, he would get mad and go off the rails. And so,
correct.
Yeah,
she was very afraid of her son. Yeah.
Now, somewhere along the lines, there was I believe Glenda had a daughter that came down she came visiting from somewhere, and then her daughter got involved. Was it San Francisco that her daughter also came down here to kind of help with the situation and try and figure everything out?
Yeah, she lives in California. Mm-hmm. And I had to call her and let her know about her mom, and then she did come up here to try to figure things out, but that didn't get anywhere.
No, which to this day, I know that they've searched in numerous places around here. They've searched in lakes, but to me, they actually didn't search very long when you actually think about it. They searched, I think it was about 4 or 5 days, and I believe, so about the usual, because they generally search for about 4 or 5 days. If they don't find anything, they kind of call it off, and that's kind of where they're at.
Yeah, but they actually only searched a couple days is what it was. And their thing was, because I told them that she liked the beach.
Mm-hmm.
but they and she lived across the street from, I don't know what beach that is there by the docks there in Empire, but if it even is a beach, I don't know. But she lived across the street from there, and because
from the bay there.
yeah, because I told them that she liked the beach and she liked to walk on the beach. They kind of turned my words around and said that I told them that she walked the beach after dark, and that is not what I told them. She didn't like to be out there after dark by herself.
Oh, right. I remember hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do remember hearing that because I heard that they brought in the dogs, they searched the shoreline of the bay,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
nothing came up there.
Right.
Do you know if they ever took the cadaver dogs around the apartment and the house?
I don't know. I don't think they did. I really don't think they did. They mostly had them out by the water, and I think a little farther down by the beach. But to me, they didn't search as much as they could.
Yeah, so I know when the description came out with her, they gave a description of what she was wearing of the day she had disappeared. My questioning on that is because nobody technically saw her that morning. So I'm curious how people knew exactly what she was wearing the morning she disappeared, if nobody really saw her that morning, if nobody knows what happened.
Right. Yeah. And
So,
the other strange thing was when they asked the son about her, he said that he didn't see her that night. But then he said that she was home at like 2:00 in the morning or something like that. So, they kind of asked him, well, you did see her or you didn't see her? You said you didn't know if she was there. And then, so I don't know. It's just all, I don't know.
I know that the reports say that she was last seen on November 1st near the corner of South Empire Boulevard and Fulton Avenue, wearing her standard Walmart dress code stuff, khaki pants and blue shirt.
Yeah, and see that I don't believe that part is true.
Okay, so basically with that evidence that they're throwing out there saying that she saw all this, and there was a few reports out there that people were like, well, maybe because of how scared she was of her son and her son being around her, and basically her scared for her life. There was actually stories out there saying that, maybe she could have up and wanted to disappear so she could get away from her son, so she wasn't afraid of her life. But I don't know if I really believe that either.
I don't. She would have called Suzanne. She would have called her best friends. She would have called somebody.
Right. And I had asked her if, I told her, I said, you can come stay with me. If you're that afraid of him, you can just come stay with me. But she didn't want to because she didn't want him to be alone and end up on the streets. So I don't believe that she would have just disappeared either.
Okay. So I'll give you a rundown of this timeline that I have, because I researched the paper. I did all this, and I researched, and I took a screenshot of the timeline. And this is what it says. It says on November 5th, 2012, Glenda Campbell is dropped off at her apartment by her friend Suzanne Lloyd on November 5th.
Right.
Okay. November 6th, after Campbell fails to show up at work or return repeated phone calls, friends report Campbell missing. So, This is the very next day after you had dropped her off at her apartment.
Correct.
Okay, and then November. Now, for some reason, between the 6th and the 7th, well, it went from the 6th, then it went to the 8th. So, according to the timeline, there wasn't really anything that was done on November 7th. There wasn't anything that was done.
Right. I don't believe there was. No.
Because this jumps to November 8th, and this says a search of the shores near the Empire Docks by a search and rescue team fails to produce any sign of Campbell. And that's where you were talking about, to where they brought in the dogs, they searched the shoreline, they saw nothing there because they went off your word by you saying she liked to walk the beach at night.
Right. But I didn't say at night. I just said she liked to walk on the beach.
Do you know if they actually dove and searched the bay?
That I do not know. I don't believe that they did. I believe it was just having the dogs out there, and I had heard that they had some people out there on horses looking too, but I don't believe that they had any divers out there.
Okay, so now we go into the next one, which is November 9th. And this is where the Coos Bay Police Department officially suspends its search for Campbell. So we're not even talking about like a 4 or 5 day search here. We're talking a very, very small couple day search to where they found nothing. So they suspend the whole thing.
Correct. Yep.
Messaround, did you have anything?
I don't really have a whole lot because there wasn't a whole lot to go off besides, that timeline is very vague. I honestly don't think they did enough. They should have dove in the bay. I mean, the water probably would have swept her out to the ocean anyway unless she was anchored down. So I don't think there's a lot they could have done there. But still, to wait 2 whole days to do anything just seems kind of ridiculous to me.
It really does, and that's what got me too. So I understand the shoreline was searched, nothing came up. There was another area. Now let's keep in mind there was another girl around that same time that ended up disappearing, and they actually found her behind a so-called
TV8
nightclub. Yeah, but it was a nightclub that we had here. They found her behind there, but that wasn't suspected as foul play.
Right.
That was Holly. Her name was Holly, and
right, yeah,
and
Holly Berry.
Yeah, and she came up. They found her, so it's one of those interesting things that right now they really didn't have any clues whatsoever. They didn't really have any suspects whatsoever, except the only really suspect that they had was her son.
Correct.
And they could not interview him because he had a disability.
Yeah, they really couldn't take his word at face value because of his mental issues, I guess. So,
right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
Which was schizophrenia.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny because the day, I don't remember if it's the 6th or the 7th, when the police were at her apartment, and her son had thrown her clothes and stuff in the dumpster and said, and they asked him why he threw her clothes in the dumpster, and he said, because she left me.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I forgot about that part.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, how does he know? How
Well,
did he know that he left her or left him, and why would he throw her clothes in the dumpster?
well, I know that he hung out with some very questionable people,
Correct.
and I don't know if he was into drugs or anything, but I know one of the stories out there was that it could have been a potential drug deal gone wrong. He owed some people some money, and they showed up and did what they had to do.
Right, because she told me that one night when one time when she got paid, some guys came and knocked on her door looking for her son for some money, and she said he wasn't there, but they were insistent on getting money. So that's just another um what
I
is the word
think
I
if
want?
anybody knows anything about what happened, it's him.
Yeah, and I
Oh
think
yeah,
if he didn't do anything, he knows what happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he knows who did it. If he didn't do it,
right,
he knows who did it.
correct.
Now, is there going to be ever closure? Hopefully. I know right now people are hoping, one day that there's going to be, some kind of closure at some point. I know that's kind of what everybody wants.
Mm-hmm.
But have they even talked? I don't even know if they've talked about reopening this actual case yet.
I haven't heard anything about that, but I did hear, and this was from a reliable source that actually works with the police department, that said that when they were out looking, they had found a couple articles, like a pair of glasses and a bra and one other thing that they figured were hers. But now when her daughter came to town, her daughter went to the police station and asked them if she could see those articles. She said, she's like, I don't want them. I just want to see them so I can take a picture, because she was going to take a picture and send them to me to see if I could identify, like the glasses or,
Right.
any of the stuff that they found. But they wouldn't let her take any pictures or see them or anything.
Seriously? That's wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So did they
Yep.
say where they found these at?
No.
That was my next question too.
Mm-mm. They didn't. It's just like they're to me, I think they know more than what they're saying.
But
But because he didn't really have a name, in this town. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about, police department or anything like that, but she was not a well-known name in town. So it's like, okay, they did very little just to say that they actually investigated, and then, that was it.
Yeah, I know you guys they're planning on holding a vigil for her coming up soon. Can you tell us about that?
Well, her first year anniversary, we did a vigil for her. And there was a few people there. This year is going to be the 10-year anniversary. So I would like to do another vigil like we did last time down by the dock in Empire where we were before, and just have a candlelight vigil and maybe some balloons or whatever, and have people say anything, anything they'd like to say. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, so definitely by looking at the facts that we have in front of us presented, the facts, the evidence, there's really not a whole lot. But when you look at this, they only really interviewed one person, which is the son, because he was really the only suspect. They didn't have anybody else. This is kind of one of those cases that you look at that you say, in all, it was a flat out vanish. That's kind of what happened. Just a flat out vanish. Nobody knows anything. I don't know if they'll ever be able to figure it out at this point. They have nothing. Absolutely nothing to go on whatsoever. If they in fact did find the pair of glasses and the bra, they could do a DNA sample on that. They could try and figure it out. They could try and match it up and see if it matches up with the DNA or not. If it doesn't, then hey, then you move on because you realize it's not her, and then you legitimately have nothing. But with that, I don't really have much else because there's not too much other evidence to go on. Messaround Dave, I'll turn this over to you quick. Do you have any final thoughts?
I just really think that, like we said, if anybody knows it's a son, and I worked with Glenda for a year or so, maybe longer, I'm not sure. But she was such a sweet lady, always had a smile, was never down unless, there's times she was when her son was giving her beef or problems. But very rarely she wouldn't show it at work. And she was always there to help people. She was one of the friendliest people I knew.
All right, so we do have one final question for you. It actually comes from Amy. It says, Mom, didn't you have a dream about her?
Yes, I did it. Not too long after she had disappeared. I don't. It wasn't really a dream because I wasn't sleeping. I was awake, but I actually just saw her face with the water behind her, and she said, "This is my home for now."
Wow.
Just clear as day, like she was right in front of me.
Like she's trying to tell you something.
Yeah, she was trying to tell me something.
Telling you she might be tied down in the water under there in the bay.
Yeah. But after all this time, I'm sure that,
Yeah.
animals and stuff, whatever. But it would just be nice to have some closure.
Right.
Well, maybe one of these days there will be. And for anybody who's watching this, hopefully if you guys know anything, go ahead and speak up, say anything that can give us clues or anything towards the disappearance of Glenda Campbell. So there's closure to her friends and her family. So I really hope everybody truly enjoyed another episode of the C2C, the Red Tape Files. We do have another case coming for you next week. We will have another special guest for you that's going to come in and talk about their case and what happened with the disappearance of this individual. So, we just hope that, every week you can hop on, watch our show, learn more and more and more about these murders and these disappearances. And hopefully, you never know. You individuals out there, you might be able to help solve a case by simply listening to these facts and these clues that we have that we're presenting to all you guys. So I am Ace, so I'm saying everybody have a good night. Messaround Dave, any final thing for you?
Yeah, just keep watching. Next week we're doing the AJ Reed disappearance thing, and I'm gonna have his brother's gonna be on to talk about it. So check that out next Monday. It should be good.
All right, and then of course, Suzanne, we want to thank you for being on the show. It's been great. It's been extraordinary to have you here because then you're able to actually back up those facts that you had and that we kind of read about, so we could present them the right way without telling any false information out there. So we definitely do appreciate that. So with everybody out there, we hope you all have a fantastic night. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of the Red Tape Files. So everybody have a good night.